decade of peace, but this followed 2 decades of war. So it's a country that's still extremely vulnerable, security is still tenuous, etc. And as of today, you basically have a generation that went through 2 decades of conflict. They were not educated. They were living in situations of extreme violence. Many of this population participated under force or voluntarily with the various militia groups that were present during the war. Some of them spent years or even decades in refugee camps in neighboring countries. The war destroyed all the infrastructure in the country, everything from the electrical grid to roads. The upper class fled, so you really were left with this really low capacity and extreme post-conflict situation. And that is a picture of what Liberia looks like today, for the most part, which brings me to More Than Me. The organization I'm working with was founded in this post-conflict context, and the woman who started it, Katie Myler, who's pictured in the center there, moved to Liberia in 2003, right as the war was ending, with an organization called Samaritan's Purse, which is a Christian humanitarian aid group. And she was working out in the bush with orphans who had been orphaned during the war, but was coming into Monrovia, coming into the city to resupply. And in the process, there were a lot of street children in the slums in that area. And as she was talking to these children, she would ask, if there's one thing that you could do, one thing you could have, what would it be? And they would all say, Auntie, we just want to go to school. So just to put, before I continue to put a human face to this, I wanted to share some of the girls that Katie met them, and who are still currently with the program today. So the picture up here is of Grace Fondola. Grace is 15 years old. She was born out in a rural county. When she was 5, she came into the city. That would have been right towards the end of the Civil War. She doesn't live with her biological family. She lives with some extended family members, and what that means is that she's expected to earn an income and help support the family. So Grace often falls asleep during school because she's out till 10 p.m. up again at 4 to do chores, to work, etc. Grace also recently learned that she's 6 months pregnant, which is not uncommon for girls her age coming from these communities, either to have children early or to have been forced into transactional sex work of some kind in order to support themselves or their families. This is Susan. Susan is 9 years old and one of our most energetic children. Susan is an orphan. She doesn't know where her parents are, and her guardian is a brothel owner. So she's living in a particularly vulnerable situation. And she's in 1st grade. And Faith is in the back right of this picture, looking very excited. Faith finally is also in 1st grade, like Susan, but she is 13 years old, so she's overage for her grade because she never went to school. And Katie, our founder, met Faith when she was walking through the slum community where Faith lives, and found her crying on the side of the road. Talked to her, and Faith shared that she was living with an aunt who didn't feed her, beat her, expected her to work, basically treated her as a slave, who she'd been sent to live with because her mother was extremely mentally ill, probably as a result from living in years of war. So I share this story not to depress you, but just to give you an idea of what the lives of a lot of these children were like and who Katie was meeting as she was working to start this organization. And I would just say that they are the rule, not the exception, throughout this country.